Well, of course, we've heard of Monday morning blues, but this is a complete bloodbath that we're seeing. Blood on the bosses. Shweta has all the details about what's triggering it. We've had two people try and calm it, but our market's going to remain calm.
Well, that is the billion-dollar question in many ways, Kulsum. Stock markets seeing complete bloodbath. Many are calling it mayhem across markets, a manic Monday, a black Monday for China stocks that has created ripples around global markets. Asian stocks plunging, India plunging. Let's take a look at what has really triggered today's crash. So complete panic across global markets and worries over China's slowdown deepening. That is the crux of the story. Why are we seeing panic gripping global markets? Well, everyone's worried about what's happening to China. Chinese markets, in fact, plunged about 9% today. Sensex Nifty seeing the worst crash of the year. In fact, if you see on the basis of the points, which is a 1200 point crash that we've seen on the Sensex, that we slipped beyond 1200 points on the Sensex today. It's well over 1000 points down even now. That itself makes it the third worst crash in the history of the stock markets. But remember, we're talking points and not percentages. Markets are much higher levels, so that's why in terms of percentages we're not seeing it as among the worst crashes, but clearly something that was totally unexpected. Nifty slipping below the 8,000 mark, a very crucial psychological level for the Nifty that has now been breached. And the rupee, that's another story. We're tracking it now. It went past the 66.66 to the dollar mark. Are we inching close to the 67 to the dollar mark? Rupee has been tanking ever since China decided to devalue its currency, the yuan. So global markets clearly in a tizzy, and this is the reason. China's stocks plunging over 8% in trade, and that has sent markets around the world in a complete tailspin. Equity markets, which is stock markets, currency markets, all of them feeling the impact of what's happening in China. Asian markets plunged earlier in the day. European markets are in the red, down about 2 to 3%. But China is the story everybody is tracking, and how long will this impact last? First, let's actually listen in to what RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan had to say about what's happening in global financial markets as well as Indian markets. He actually tried to calm the markets by saying India is in a much better off position than most other markets, and that's why there is no cause to panic.
7 years after the financial crisis, advanced economies are still growing fairly slowly, while a number of emerging markets are experiencing difficulties with their old export-led growth model. Now, many of you are watching markets this morning worried about the continued volatility from last week. While I don't want to opine on the future direction of markets, I will say that relative to other countries, India is in a good position.
India in a good position relative to other countries, but the governor has also said that if required, he will dip into the foreign exchange reserves to arrest the slide of the rupee. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley also spoke some time back, trying to calm the nerves of investors, saying that China is creating ripples around the globe, but it will only have a transient impact on the Indian economy.
The last fortnight you had the devaluation trend and the economic data from China, which is creating ripples in the global market. And obviously, being a part of the globally integrated economy, this would also leave at least some transient impact as far as we are concerned.
So has the RBI governor and the finance minister managed to calm markets at all with their statements? That's something we'll have to assess right now. Well, no, 4.7% off now on the Nifty. We are nearly 390 points off, 7,910. So clearly markets continuing to tank. They're extending their slide in many ways. Over 4.5% off on the Nifty in a single day. That's quite a crash. Let's pull up the Sensex to see where the Sensex is right now. We've seen Sensex dipping through the day, and look at that. So we're seeing the markets actually extend the fall as we speak. We've just got a little over an hour to go for markets to shut, and they continue to plunge. 1236 points off on the Sensex. So despite all that, the finance minister as well as the governor have said, the nervousness and the panic in the markets continues. Let me go across to our markets guest now. Sanjeev Bhasin, well-known market analyst, now joins us to explain what's happening. Mr. Bhasin, you're in fact someone who told us last week that this was coming. You said Nifty will break the 8,000 mark. We're going to see this kind of panic. But has today's crash taken you by surprise? And how much lower will we go before things start looking up?
Well, yeah. Hi, good afternoon. Sweta, you are right. You know, we were one of the few who was telling you that there is complacency and that old adage of delinking, that India is going to be the beneficiary of most Chinese flows and so on and so forth. And oil at 40 has played out well for the macros. But today you've sent the cat amongst the pigeons. There is a global, it's a mayhem, you know, like you said, currencies, bonds and stock markets. And all three are put together tell us that 7940 was a very, very key support, which as you just spoke has broken down. So we think 7600 is on the cards. We have an expiry on Thursday. There is extreme pressure of rollover, and combined with that the rupee at 6650 all indicate that we are headed lower. So I think
all right, Mr. Bhasin, I'm going to interrupt you here because while there's a complete crash that's taking place in the markets, there is some news, good news on the cricket front, and let's quickly cut across to Virat Kohli, who is addressing the media right now.